sport can have on the awareness specifically, but also on economic impact of a country. Just because we haven't seen that in the last 20 years in Namibia as a big driver, it's certainly changing in specifically certain sporting codes. And it's something I think we should promote quite a lot more in terms of how sport advocate your country and how that exposure leads into tourism and leads into economic investment into your country. So let's start with the correlation between establishing the link between sport and tourism. So the first graph that you'll see there is, and I must maybe just acknowledge Nupresh Soni, all the data that you collect for us at the back end. Thank you so much for that, Nupresh, and also the work you do for the Tourism Forum. Thank you for that valuable contribution. I must also acknowledge Nonkuze Collection, our tourism partner, that helps us to promote Namibia. If you can go to the first slide, I would like to show you a graph that is a Google search item. Now, we all know how Google work is every search item, in this case, the term Namibia, every time that term gets registered or logged in, it forms part of a back-end data that you can get through Google Analytics. That shows the amount of, in terms of frequency, not the amount of searches that the search term was used over a certain period of time. So the top graph is for a period for about a year and a half. The bottom graph is since Google started in 2004, there was a certain spike on the search term Namibia that is very prominent. If you look at percentage-wise, the one is at 100%, and all other searches in that 18 odd years have been below 25%. So when did that spike happen? And the next slide will show you exactly what event correlated to that spike. If you can go to the next one, please. So we linked it to the T20 World Cup. So when our team, the Namibian cricket side, played in the 2021 World Cup in Dubai, the event took place in October, and the search terms correlate exactly, which means that during our team participation in the T20 World Cup in Dubai, more people searched Namibia on Google than at any other time since Google started. And not by a small margin, by 75% margins, which is astronomical. And I want to at this stage just take you to your next vacation. Just get something in your mind as where would you like your next vacation to be? What country would that be? And if you think about it, what led you to think about that country? Was it a magazine in an airline? Was it an advert on TV? Or was it that you're a Bundesliga fan and now you want to go to Germany? Or you're a Real Madrid fan and you want to go to Spain? Think about what was that one thing that triggered your thoughts of a country to visit. And this is exactly what this does. And I want to show you as a tourism forum the next slide, which I think correlates exactly to how cricket and specifically sport can impact tourism. So just on the same search terms, the search term Namibia tourism, that's got nothing to do with cricket. Am I correct? In your minds, Namibia tourism, the search term, has got nothing to do with cricket. And again, what we're seeing there is the biggest spike of that search term was over the period we played the T20 World Cup 2021 in October. So surely there must be a correlation. It's not a coincidence that the only, in this case, not really the only, but in the previous slides you could see that there's an exemplary spike in terms of the searches. But it shows you there's a serious connection between sporting events, international sporting events, and a country, and how those sporting events promotes the interest into the country. Remember, there's a few things that need to happen before you book your vacation. You first need to be aware of a country. First needs something needs to trigger you to go and do research. And then the first thing we normally do is go phones and go Google, isn't it? And you start viewing through images of that country, and you start establishing what your interest would be. In this case, sport can be that trigger. Remember that these matches that we play at World Cups, it's broadcasted on 220 different countries, over 26 different broadcasters, international broadcasters. The ICC, which is our mother federation, the International Cricket Council, has more than 1.3 billion fans worldwide. 1.3 billion. I just want to stand still there. So whenever we play cricket in the World Cup, that's the amount of people that have access to the Namibian cricket team, which is a direct correlation to Namibia, and we've just established that. At the moment, our women's side, and it's very tough standing here while our women's side is playing at an international match against Hong Kong at United Fields. We are broadcasting that match live on Namibian TV, but also DSTV in Africa, also Fancode in India. So there's millions of people watching currently how our women's side is playing against Hong Kong. And they're promoting Namibia through playing cricket. I want to just move this slightly further, just into the next slide. It is critically important that we use social media to promote your brand. So that's just in the last year, the number of impressions and the number of social media posts, specifically on Facebook, that we have done as an organization. Almost 1,000 posts in the last year. And all of them correlate and connect Namibia to cricket. So whenever we play against Canada, people from Canada follow the match and follow the series. And everything they see is Namibia and Namibia cricket. And some way, somehow, that will spark an interest. And it will spark some sort of awareness of the country. And it will spark perhaps the following destination that they will go to. The next slide will show you the different countries who we've played against or in the last 2 years. That's either our women's side or our men's side. So we've played Canada toured here, USA toured here 3 times. Now, those are pretty big economies if you think about the USA economy in terms of value and size. We've played quite a number of African countries. We've played in India. We've played Nepal, Pakistan. We've played Australia, New Zealand, also Papua New Guinea. So somewhere in there, your next traveler is watching cricket and is connected to cricket because of the interest, but they start searching and finding an interest in where is Namibia and what does Namibia offer me. Some of our biggest destinations in terms of tourism is Europe. We played Netherlands and Germany with our women's side, and the interest in that is quite significant. Scotland is also one of those countries. It shows you that sport is international. All of these matches are broadcasted on international TV. And I'm not just talking about our local Namibian TV, it's international TV. So sport can be an exposure to your country because people connect sporting teams to a country. That is just a normal way of doing it. It's very important that we understand what the impact of this might be. So the next slide will show you direct economic impact, and I'll explain that, indirect economic impact, and then also how that leads to job creation. The previous tournament we facilitated in March at 6 teams. It was 5.5 million Namibian dollars that we spent on direct consumers in Namibia. So $5.5 million was spent on hotels, transport companies, security, medical companies, suppliers of Namibian businesses that all generate income from the value and from the teams that we bring into the country. That's quite a lot for one tournament. We host 8 tournaments in a year. It's quite a significant amount of money, direct economic impact coming into your country. Now let's go indirect economic impact. All these teams have to eat dinners somewhere. They all go to a certain restaurant or takeouts or whatever it might be. They all book local transport in the form of lefa or taxis. They all go to shopping malls, and because of the exchange rate, they spend a lot easier than we can spend because of the currency that they gain their money in. Those are all examples of indirect economic impact. Remember, every shop that they support has got laborers, have got workers that pull a salary. We are currently the biggest client of Safari Hotel. So Safari Hotel is one of our partners. We are the biggest client to them. We book more room nights in a year than anyone else in Namibia. That's 800 room nights in a year. So it's quite significant in terms of a impact. What it also does in terms of job creation is we currently employ specifically 45 people, which doesn't sound a lot, but no other sporting code in this country does that. But every supplier that we use also employ. We currently provide ad hoc income to 67 scorers, 54 umpires who are all locally based, and a lot of them uses that money to pay either for additional income into the family or for for completing their studies. Most of our scorers pay for their education through the fact that they can score cricket matches. So there's a very direct correlation between how sport can impact the awareness of your country, but also the economic cycle of your country. The next one is quite important, and that's mega events. So mega events is World Cups. In football term, it's a World Cup. In Olympic terms, in athletic terms, it's Olympic Games. Those are mega events that contribute to the hosting country, not just from an awareness composure, but also from a direct economic impact. At this stage, we will host the 2026 Under-19 Men's World Cup and the 2027 Senior Men's World Cup. The Senior Men's World Cup economic impact is worked out that we should be, if you use 2019 figures before COVID, should attract $26 million into the country through direct economic impact. What that means is that just through that tournament of booking hotels, local transport, local suppliers, it has got nothing to do with people who then spend another couple of days in Namibia touring through the beautiful country. It's got nothing to do with the people that has seen that event on TV on the 220 countries and 26 broadcasters that will book their holiday to Namibia in the next 2 years after the event because they got triggered through the awareness and the interest in the country grows because of that mega event. That's quite significant what sport can contribute, not just from an awareness composition, but also from an economic value into the country. It is something we are passionate about. We do broadcast all our matches live. We've got our own production team through TV to Namibia. And we broadcast all our matches to various different sources. A lot of them goes to India. But every country we play against, that stream goes directly to that country and onto their social media platforms. So the awareness that we attract to Namibia through sport is a vehicle that this audience needs to tap into. It's a vehicle that you need to start using more and more. I sat with the executive director of tourism ministry, and we're trying to establish a link on how tourism can tap into sport and awareness that sport, and specifically in this case cricket, brings into the country. But it's a strategy that we need to develop ourselves. Tourism is not our game. We don't understand it. We don't work in that industry. We do understand how to facilitate and host cricket matches and to tour to opposition. We need to work as a partnership from tourism in Namibia and sport in Namibia on how do we promote this country better. How do we utilize tournaments and events to really attract people to the country, more people to see what's going on in the country, and then through that book their next vacation, because that is what this is about. Third highest on GDP, if I'm correct, in terms of tourism, the role that tourism plays in this country, and sport is a vehicle that we're not tapping into. Thank you.
All right. Very informative as we start to get into sport and tourism. So you got into what my first question was going to be towards the end there, but I'll ask it anyway. How do you feel practically the tourism industry can assist with, making people aware of what's happening with regards to sport? Are we talking about making sure tour guides have pamphlets? You know what I mean? Whenever there's a large cricket game in Namibia, yes, of course, look, I think we've got it covered with regards to what we need to do with regards to broadcasting and social media and that kind of thing. But are there small practical steps that could be taken, for example, having pamphlets at hotels, that kind of thing, whenever there's big sporting events in Namibia? Because something I've found out when I'm traveling is, even if I'm not interested in the sport, I may be interested in the spectacle.
I think there's so many ways to tap into it. We would need some creative brains from this platform to first understand sport, and then we to understand tourism, for us to collectively design some sort of a strategy. But a great example is today, taking the four countries that's currently in Namibia, we're taking them to Nankuze to have some sort of a wildlife experience. They're going to have a cheetah encounter, feed the wildcats, and that is something that promotes Namibia. Normally, sporting teams just stay in a hotel and they go from field to the hotel and back, and that's almost all they do. And with our beautiful country being situated outside of Windhoek, it's very difficult to show them something. So something new we've started is to now take them to Nankuze as they are our tourism partner. But through their collaboration and decrease in prices, we're now able to do that. But what now happens is we show these players something unique of our country, seeing some wildlife, seeing what the country is all about. But what they do is they immediately go onto their social media platform, personal IP, what we use a lot in sport, and they will post those pictures on all of their social media platforms. Their friends and partners and everyone throughout the rest of the country and world will see it. And that's a great way, an example of how we can promote the country while we've got teams in the country. Yes. There's obviously quite a number of others, and I would love to hear the input from the audience on how we can link it together.
Yes, indeed. You know, when you just spoke about social media, something that may have just slipped over a couple of people, particularly with sports. There was a time Gabrielle Union came here, but her husband, Dwayne Wade, is a well-accomplished basketball player. And I don't know if Namibians saw this, but on the basketball pages, some people were having the conversation about him being in Namibia and that kind of thing. And, you know, that's already a sport that is not necessarily big in Namibia, but there's some kind of awareness. So I think it might also be good to find, you know, those, to make sure we get those big figures, retired or not, when they're here to also document their experience. But what I wanted to get into in my second question, I think the reason cricket is big in India is because Indian people love cricket. And it is in just about every single section of the country, right? How much can we do in Namibia to make sure cricket goes to all the regions? Now, I'm not saying that it's not necessarily there, but it's definitely popular in spots, so to speak. Is there potential for us to decentralize perhaps international matches? You know, what are the chances of an international match being in Oshakati, that kind of situation? Because you find that sometimes the interest is sparked just by seeing men or women in your national colors in your space. And even if you don't know what they're doing, it could be enough for you to get into the sport. And ultimately, the more people who love cricket, the more ambassadors we have for cricket. So I just want to pose that question to you. How much can we do to decentralize the sport? I don't think it's necessarily centralized, but just to make sure that it's in every single corner of the country.
Great question. So currently we're in all 14 states or 14 regions of Namibia. We had more than 120,000 kids playing cricket last year, which means that it's close to 1.45 of every primary school child in Namibia had access to cricket. We've got almost 30,000 kids playing cricket in the northwestern region of Namibia, which is the first time ever we introduced cricket there. But it's just to your question, it's a dual strategy. We started 2.5 years ago to start to produce cricket on TV, and we gave the rights to NBC for free, so that cricket can be seen on every TV in Namibia. The reason for that is if we do a mini cricket outreach program, and we do a roadshow, we go into a new school or a new town, I want that child to go home, speak to his parents about, I played cricket today, and the parent must say, oh, I've seen cricket on TV. Yes. I know what this is. It looks like a great game. Yes. Because then the parent will motivate the child to go back. And the moment we've got that, we take our kids off the streets, we give them something active to do, something productive to do, and a social component of their lives developed. That might lead into a career. Currently, cricket is a career in Namibia. We employ 18 players that plays cricket on a full-time basis. But besides that, there's umpires, there's scorers, there's employees. So it is an employment opportunity throughout the country, but it's important for us to not just take cricket, put cricket on TV and we're happy with that. Yes. But we need to take cricket into all the regions as well.
Right. Glad about the work you've been doing thus far. Very nice. Right, let's get into our questions as we talk about sport and tourism in Namibia. Yes, sir. I believe the microphone should be on its way to you.
Directly, it's always better to hear the opportunities available and what you can and cannot do. We've got one marketing person in the form of Natalia Nuyoma, and between me and her, we'll be able to guide you on how to tap into the opportunities.
All right. If you could please just ask that you keep the microphone as close as you can to your mouth, and if you could stand when you speak, just so we can all see who you are. Because there's always a chance that you ask a question that someone else may have wanted to ask, and you might be able to articulate it better. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. It's good to hear sports linked to tourism. Um, I think, from my experience, that's my personal view, but I think we have lack of information. I want to take a look at an example of being a waiter, and then you had a player who've been here in Namibia playing with Namibia from India or Pakistan, and then he had a beautiful story about Namibia and so forth. So he decided, no, I'll go back and come back as a tourist or invite other people. So I find it very important that the first contact of most of the visitors can be a receptionist, can be a waiter on the table serving that winter klaka or sharing that Namibian beef and so forth. But I'm dealing with these people, they don't have much information. So we have so much to do to train our people to know these things. Okay, and also, this is my special request. There's no way that we have said that we cannot do it. We can do it. But just a special request that maybe after some winning matches or before the matches toward into the World Cup, please take the cricket Namibia, the whole team, the managers, the workers, go around Katutura. Go around Katutura, let these sweets, throw those sweets like the Vika Festival or whatever. And then young people said, oh, what is this game? And they start rolling their small ball on tins and kicking one another. So this is what we want, because everything starts from home. Now you have a tourist coming to Namibia, asking you about, where's your field in cricket? I don't know. I've never been at the cricket match. So I think we need to plan from home. One more last thing, sorry for your time. I would like now to give also a job to young people right now. I've heard of your message about the Senior Cricket World Cup in Namibia. It's about time when you guys take this message, you can even start now your volunteers companies to prepare in 2 years in advance. And you approach the cricket CEO, say, no, I've set up this small company to provide volunteers for upcoming event. Create a profile earlier now, and then you approach company for financial assistance. They can provide you with transport, uniform, all this, because you are volunteer, you are helping the nation. Thank you very much.
So you know I'm in the media business, and our job is to share information, and we're very proud of what we're doing as an organization. But when I met Johan and more than a year ago, the idea that we had to look at cricket from a development perspective and all the effort that it takes to make sure that everybody understands cricket and that we can all learn to play cricket, and I think they do a brilliant job in getting that, was always my understanding of what does a sport code do for the country. And all of a sudden, there's a whole new dimension to this, and this is that this sport code, I wish we could say that for all our sport codes, but even those that sometimes find it more difficult, they do it as well. What can they do to promote this country? And it was just mind-boggling what cricket is doing. And not just marketing something to a place where everybody's already marketing, but to a market that no one is marketing to. So I challenge any of you, how many of you are marketing towards the eastern part, Middle East Asia? We're not. And yet this is a simple way of doing it. You don't even have to tell it, you just have to show it. And when Johan started discussing that, it was like an eye-opener to me. So when we sat down this concept of Beyond Borders, there were 3 things that triggered me to have this theme. And one of them was what Cricket Namibia was doing. So Johan, thank you so much for letting me see a world that I can't say I didn't understand it, but I didn't realize how powerful it was. And it's really powerful, that 1.3 billion. It's really powerful what Cricket Namibia is doing. So thank you for your hard work, Johan. So for my 5 seconds, just to give you something back, can you just put up the slide, please? So these are the games that have been played. I know they're on all sorts of platforms, but they're on our network television as well. So please watch these games. Our girls play very good cricket as well. So those are the times that they are playing. So our next game that we watch on Sunday, and then Monday, and then the finals on the 2nd of June. So even better, go and watch them. That would be the best way you can celebrate and say thank you for this team for being our advertisers of Namibia as a country and tourist destination, never mind that they play cricket. Thank you, Johan.
Words. Thank you. All right, do we have any more questions? Are there any sports folk in here? I don't want us to be restricted to cricket. Anyone who's passionate about sport in the youth? Think about the sport that you love. Of course, I don't want to talk about the sport I love because Arsenal lost this week. So I think we should all just think personally about the sport you love and, you know, what connection can you make with regards to tourism? So I believe you have another question, another contribution. If you could please stand this time. Thank you.
I just wanted to also, because we're trying to set up something at the village. I used to call it on my own this home hosting tourism. So whereby you can create your old houses, traditional houses, to a little bit modern way of hosting tourism, and you all start with the local tourist. So now I'm trying to see if maybe we can also link to that to sports. If maybe we can come up with the all traditional sports activities. For instance, if I have a tourist coming to have a weekend away at my landscape, and then we can also introduce some other traditional sport activities, like the domino, I don't know how to call it in English, onyune, Maggie, onyune, onyune. What do you call it? Yes, all those, yeah. So it's not. Okay. So because it to be, if I have a guest and sometimes we have this traditional dance. I don't know if it's also related to sports, but just to keep your guest active and learning something new for Africa, that also be part of sports. Yeah, and I'm sure I also mentioned about young people who want to start business or entrepreneurs. Not only that you go work as a chef or whatever, no. Sometimes you can have this sport tour guide where you can take some guests and to watch the Afro-Laga Brave Warriors and all this stuff and tell them about our beef and all these things, have conversation and so forth. So this is also part of sports. So there's so much that we can give to our people. Thank you very much.
There's a question here.
Good morning. I wanted to say fellow comrades, but I will say my fellow country members. I'm from South Africa, and I've just got a message from my mayor, Dr. Elna van Slig, who is the executive mayor of the Cape Winelands District Municipality, who is in the Western Cape. She said I must congratulate you, send the regards, because sport is the biggest unifier that we can get. She also would like to congratulate you of the infrastructure that will come into your area. You have to upgrade your stadiums, you will do roads and all those kind of things. But the biggest thing is the tourists will come. Namibia will be on the international map. 1.3 billion people, I guess about 1 billion will be from India. Now in South Africa we move now, the test is 5 days. The limited overs is 50 overs, and then we have T20. We just hosted now the Women's International World Cup, T20. And there is money. People will come here. And quite frankly, the Indians now invested in the area where I come from, PAL, the cricket union is Boland. And we have now formed a joint venture with India. They invested millions into cricket. And I think when this will up, and Namibia will be on the map, the Indian people will come here. And they will invest in your teams, in the provincial teams. And the youth will have opportunities. Because you didn't mention everything that will be there. But from now until 2027, I think Namibia will be a different country. In South Africa, we developed a song, Waka Waka, for the 2010. And maybe some of the young producers can do that for you. But from our side, I just wanted to congratulate you, and we wish that this will be the best World Cup that Africa, the continent, will have. Thank you.
Yes, by all means.
Thank you for that, and Albie, thank you for your compliments. I don't think we always deserve it, but thank you. We highly appreciate it. But sir, you're so right, and maybe I want to touch on the Indian market. Very interesting that under the auspice of the Vice President of Namibia, there's a delegation from India touring into Namibia the first week of June from the state of Karnataka, which is the southern state of India. Bangalore is the main city. And the reason for the visit is how to invest in Namibia. And it's interesting that at that same period, we are hosting the state of Karnataka cricket team, which those tournaments or those matches will be broadcasted directly into India. It's the ideal platform to have invest in Namibia on screen, on perimeter boards, on field logos, and promote Namibia through that platform. But you're so right, sir. There's so many investors from the Indian market that wants to invest in cricket. But they don't invest in cricket. They invest in infrastructure. Through infrastructure, you invest in employment. You increase the supplier chain, the entire value chain through suppliers into that infrastructure. And then the local person that makes a living from that stadium. So it's not just cricket. It's an impact that will have impact in the city of Windhoek, but it will also have an impact in Namibia as per se. We unfortunately still don't have a cricket ground. Just to comment on it, we are waiting now 2 years and 7 months on City of Windhoek to sign a lease for us that we can finally start developing some infrastructure. And we do hope that's going into some sort of a direction, because we're 3 years away from our first World Cup, and we seriously need to develop some infrastructure.
Oh, yes. You know, thank you for the compliment once again. I hope you can maintain it should Namibia beat the Proteas. We'll see how it goes.
Well, we did beat Netherlands, and Netherlands did beat the Proteas. So
We'll take it. We'll take it. A win is a win. All right. There's another question in the front. Microphone's on its way. Thank you, Denzel.
Good afternoon. Okay. I am a basketball player, and unfortunately, we are not recognized. So, as a tourism student, I would like to get tips on how I can start being recognized as the basketball community, because your work is good, and having that much fans is what we also want. Can also bring us income, and the famous basketball player that was here, we didn't see him. We could have gotten tips from him only if we were recognized. So yes, I would love tips and to also grow.
In some of the places he did visit, he did make time to go to some basketball academies and that kind of thing, and I think that would be beneficial. Yes, sir.
I cannot say that I'm an expert on basketball, to be honest, but with your length, we can turn you into a very nice cricket bowler. That's for sure. But just to comment what we did, our strategy was to get cricket through a lens, through a TV camera. Because the moment it goes through a TV camera, you can start selling the content. So what we're currently doing is we invite teams to come and play in Namibia. The moment they play in Namibia, we've got the rights to broadcast that content. And then we've got the rights to sell it. So currently we sell all our local matches that we play against international teams to international audiences. And we derive more income from the international market than we do from the domestic market. Which helps us to fund cricket into our grassroots because of the income through broadcasting. We linked with India because India is a massive cricket market. He mentioned that of the 1.3 billion, a million might be, or billion might be from India. USA is a massive basketball market. So I would advise that your basketball association starts formalizing links with USA and see, can you start selling broadcasting to them? Can you attract a team to tour into Namibia to play against our side and then produce it and sell it back to them? I would love to sit down with your organization to discuss opportunities, but that was our model, is to derive content, get content teams traveling into Namibia, produce it for TV production, and then sell the broadcasting rights to that specific country of the team traveling into. So those are some ideas that I can, off the cuff, maybe discuss, but I would love to sit with your organization to hear more about how their structures work, and then maybe I can advise them better.
And I think that's really commendable because you could have easily sat with the fact that it's a small population and a country far removed from most of the countries which are within the cricket world, aside from Zimbabwe, South Africa, and a couple of countries around. But you found a way to reach beyond borders and to bring, I like that I did that. Very happy with myself. So to reach beyond borders and to be able to bring the interest into Namibia. Thank you for the basketball perspective. Another point?
I can't stress the importance of sports and tourism enough, and I think we've heard so much about how cricket is doing and what they are doing and how powerful it is. We've seen it with other sport codes that we have as well. But getting closer to home, there's a lot of sports events that happen in our own country, and therefore when our facilities are not on standard, we are stealing a job from tourism. When we are engaging a town but not really visiting the town, we are stealing a job from tourism. So how we do sports and how we make sure that when we engage sports, it's done in such a way that we not just make sure that the team comes in and goes out, but as Johan explained just now, allows them to see something of their country, something of their town. It may require a bit of investment from your establishment, that you're going to have to come at a rate that's not plus 100, but maybe just plus 10. But that entire team, all Namibians, will go back to their town and say how wow their town was. So our understanding of how we encourage local sports and local sports teams that visit town to town. We are going on Sunday, we're going to Walfish Bay where 10,000 people are coming into that town, 10,000 people. And how that sports is being managed and making sure that the people that are there can go back to their towns. Of course, maybe Walfish is a bad example because everybody knows where that is. But it's important that local establishments accommodate those sporting events as well. And it can't be, well, this is a moment to make a lot of money and then we raise our prices, and instead of lowering it to make sure that they become your ambassador. And I think that's the comment he made just now. I had to smile when he said that they were accommodating the cricket teams because they become your best marketers. And again, I'm talking against myself when I make this comment. That means that your advertising spend has to be X minus now because they're advertising for you. And I think that is the trick that I still find challenging when we're involved, because we're very, very involved with sports in this country, extremely involved. So it's wonderful that we have a national team, but it goes nowhere if we don't make sure that development at school level and the grassroots levels is sorted. It just goes nowhere. And so school level sports is critical. So when the Minister of Education says that we're only in sports, only in education and not in sports, it kills tourism. And this is why we've got to look at the education system and say, where's our sports development in education? Because it's lacking seriously. And in essence, we're not teaching children to play sports, and therefore they don't become this ambassador like the cricketers. Yes, it helps the cricket union to do what they do, but the support from central government in this process is a challenge. It's a serious challenge. And we have to redefine the concept of education in this country. Otherwise, we all go to university to get some degree, and yet we have these long discussions about unemployment. So thanks once again, Johan. I think the message that you're giving around Beyond Borders is just wow. And thank you for making time today. Really appreciate that you've put us ahead of your Namibian cricket team. Thank you so much.
Need to defend 7 runs of free balls, so I'm following the game while we're here.
And that's the power of modern technology, so there you go. And that's the trick about cricket. It's sort of one of those games you can be there all the time. It's this continuous process. It gives you longevity in terms of getting the message across. It's not, even the T20 is 3 hours. So that gives you a lot of attention to share your story, whatever it is that you want to share from an accommodation perspective. But again, thank you.
Thank you.
As the microphone goes back to Maggie there, do you think perhaps Namibia could also benefit? I'm just looking at the American model where we find ourselves admiring individual brands. You know, is it possible to accentuate the successes of individuals in the cricket team? You know, that kind of thing, things like ads, they pull people. For example, I've spent the longest time trying to find a Peter Shalulile shirt. it matters to me. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because he's a trailblazer, and also he naturally becomes just a part of Namibian pride. And if you're Namibian, you know we debate a lot with South Africans on Twitter, and I think debate is a kind word. And and it's nice to see Peter Shalulile dominate over there, and you can tag your flag on that, you know what I mean, and be able to represent it. So do you think there's potential for you know, just some kind of amalgamation between tourism and, I don't know, entertainment, advertising, marketing, that could really push forward these individual brands that do well? You know, something I notice perhaps when I'm commentating rugby, that kind of thing, I'll notice, oh, this player is now in Poland. Muton, I believe, also went to Poland. I'm curious about how he's doing in Poland. And I think, of course, yes, sports journalism and that kind of thing definitely covers that gap. But I think these are potential brands that people might be really interested in. And just to link to what Albi said, I'm fortunate enough to pretty much be able to commentate cricket, rugby, and all of these sports were sports I learned in grade 3. You know what I mean? I was fortunate to be able to go to a good school. I didn't go into university for these schools, but it's something that once you learn it, it sticks onto you. And anything that sticks onto you gives boundless opportunities. Maggie?
Thank you. Again, I'm speaking to the students this time around. And I just want to find out how many of the tourism students have reached out to the Johan of this country, saying that we understand you've got a cricket teams coming in Namibia. Can I volunteer to meet them at the airport? Just greet them. I'm a student. Welcome to Namibia. Has anybody? Again, that is where you start your intern in front office. It's not only at the hotel, it can be at the airport. You don't need to be an immigration officer to do that. You just need to volunteer. There is a group of workshops coming in, people coming from other country. Have you ever reached out to that organizer and volunteered to be the face of Namibia when that group arrives? How many teams do we have, Johan, that came in the country?
Plus us?
3+. And those are more than 16, 17 per group?
Correct.
And those, you had a potential to meet all those 16 people from different countries. Maybe they will even get interested as far as getting your business card. You write your name and your telephone number, email on a piece of paper, you give it to this person. When the person goes to say, hi, I met you at the airport in Namibia. I hope you arrived safe. That's it. This person will get that interest. Next time I hear you have, like the lady over there, you are invited to Hong Kong to go and do your internship there because you were just so friendly and you volunteered. Thank you.
Maybe just touching on a few comments. It's quite interesting what you say, Maggie. There's so many opportunities in meeting those people, but back to players' IP or person's IP. Lewis Hamilton visited this country.
Yes,
what
indeed.
type of exposure did Namibia get through that? The activities that he did.
Yes.
And you mentioned our players. How do they get recognized in other countries? Maybe just an example. So when I started here, it was the day that Namibia played Rugby World Cup against New Zealand. That was 2019.
Yes.
It was 2019. And I went to a local cricket field where the match was
being
showed on a TV with quite a number of people coming to watch it, Wanderers sports field. And there were boys playing cricket on the grass. And the one had an England shirt on, the other had a South African shirt on, the one had a New Zealand shirt on. And they were all different heroes, or they had different heroes,
Yes.
non-Namibian. Where our stars at that stage were playing some decent cricket, but we didn't promote them.
Yes.
We didn't promote the game far enough for them to even develop their local followers. And after we started doing that, 2 years later, the same scenario occurred. And there were a couple of kids playing cricket. Quite interestingly, it was in Kusipmund.
All right.
And they, you know, as you play as a kid, you always think you always give yourself a name.
Yes.
I'm A.B. de Villiers, or I'm that
Makai
person, whatever your hero is. And 2 years later, in the same scenario, different town, they were J.J. Smith, Jan Freiling, and Merwe Erasmus.
Wow.
Because we now create, and they were playing in Namibia shirts, because we created some fan-based shirts that people can buy. But J.J. Smith is the top 5 all-rounders in the world. All-rounder is someone that bowls and bats. He's in the top 5 all-rounders for the last 2 years. So just think about our 2 wonderful athletes going to the Olympic Games and performing so well in the 100 meters.
Yes.
ending 7th or 6th or 5th in an Olympic final, it's like being top 5 in your discipline in cricket,
Yes.
in terms of ranking. Our captain was ranked one of the top 5 captains at the previous World Cup.
Wow.
In international level. And we need to promote these people in an international context, because their IP and their value as a person that represents Namibia has grown significantly through the fact that they participate in the sport. But the important part here, and this is the comment I want to make, is we need to develop Namibian heroes for a Namibian child. Because that's how you promote them out of their current situations, trying to work harder, trying to strive better, and be something more than they see that they can be. Because now they see a local Namibian person coming second in an Olympic race. And all of a sudden that sparks a belief in you.
Absolutely.
And it destroys barriers that we sometimes place there for ourselves. It's away from the tourism concept, but the concept of creating sports heroes to attract and develop our youth is critical.
All right. I think we'll take one more question if there is one. Gita.
Just a final one off cricket, but brand Namibia. If we talk about taking Namibia outside, I know that there's always this challenge, and I'm hoping that the sports codes can help us there. There are rules and regulations pertaining to the use of the Namibian flag or the Namibian colors, to the extent that some people are actually criminalizing wearing Namibian flag shirts if they don't get permission from the laws above. There are rules and regulations, and we were taught that when we sat together with the Ministry of Information Communication Technology about the use of Namibian symbols, flags, and colors. I think the sports codes have made quite a few inroads in there, and we want our people, even if they don't support a particular sports code or a particular team, that they are able to dress themselves as Namibians going out there. And I just want to make an appeal to the sports codes to help us actually design. It's a market opportunity for some innovative entrepreneur to actually design a Namibian dress so that we go out as a Namibian to Timbuktu, for that matter, that we showcase ourselves as proud Namibians, and then support whatever is happening there, be it sports, be it entertainment. Our music world also needs us as supporters. So a Namibian dress is what I'm hoping for, that is it we as Namibians can carry out there. Thanks.
Okay, any final thoughts?
No, thank you for the opportunity. It's wonderful to share the platform and the floor with some very esteemed speakers, and thank you for the wonderful compliments from around the floor. We're trying to live up to the expectation created and develop Namibians as far as we can.
Ladies and gentlemen, Johan Muller.
Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you, Johan. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.